Hi everyone, my name is Andi Cumbo-Floyd, and I'm the author of a book called The Slaves Have Names, Ancestors of My Home, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about that book. The book took about 3 years for me to write, and it tells the story of the people who were enslaved on the plantation where I was raised here in Central Virginia. The plantations are still privately owned by the original family, and at the time of slavery, there were at least 246 people enslaved there over the course of what now looks to be more than 100 years, starting in about 1734 all the way to emancipation in 1865. And the reason I wanted to write this book was I realized after growing up there that no one really talked about these people. No one hid the fact that these were slave plantations. No one acted sort of gallant about, hiding it or pretending like slaves hadn't lived there, but nobody talked about it either. In fact, the only two people I ever heard mentioned by name that had been enslaved there were two men, a man named Cato and a man named Primus. But nobody seemed to really know anything about these people, and no one seemed to know anything about their descendants. And it occurred to me at some point that the people I had gone to high school with probably were descended, some of them were probably descended from the people who'd been enslaved on this plantation. So I just decided to see what I could find, and I ended up writing this book. So the book itself is about, it's 33 chapters long. Of those, there are 22 profiles of individual people who were enslaved at these plantations. Several men, several women, and all people that I know some about, now a lot more about than I knew before because I've done a lot of research on them, but still don't know very much about because they were enslaved, they just did not have a lot of records kept about themselves. And if they did, they're kind of horrible records about them as property. In fact, some of the information I gathered about these individuals came from a document that also listed the litters of puppies born on the plantation. So for some of these people I know about, a few facts. I know maybe when they were born. I might know a little bit about their family. I might know when they were given things like blankets, but I don't know very much more than that. So the process of writing the book was frustrating and wonderful. Very exciting when I found some information, very frustrating when I hit a dead end. But I think the book is really important because it tells you the story of people and not the story of slavery, although of course that's part of the story. I think sometimes we get very caught up in the statistics around slavery. We get caught up in understanding the institution, but we forget that that institution was made up of people. The transatlantic slave trade had 12.5 million people in it. About 10 million of those survived the Middle Passage. Most of those people ended up in South America and Central America, but we did have a huge, obviously, part of the transatlantic slave trade here in the United States. And sometimes it's very easy to get caught up in those numbers and forget that there were individual human beings involved. And so my book is an attempt to tell you the stories about these people, and the title, The Slaves Have Names, is hopefully a reminder that we're talking about human beings, people with families and stories and passions and pet peeves and problems and, emotions, all of these things, not just statistics. So my favorite person in the book is a man named Primus Randolph. He's one of those first two people I had ever heard of working at these plantations, and he was the foreman at Upper Bremo for a period of time, which meant he would have been in charge of distributing tasks during the day. He wasn't the overseer, so he wouldn't have disciplined people, but he would have been in charge of making sure people were on task and getting the tasks for the day. He's buried in the slave plantation, which is about a quarter mile up the road from where I grew up, and he is one of three people total, who have marked stones in that cemetery. There are over 100 people buried there, but only 3 of them have marked stones, and Primus is one of them. The other 2 are a man named Ben Creasy, who was the carpenter, and Jesse Nicholas, who was a mason. But Primus is just, he's always been the person who sticks out to me, maybe because I knew his name first and because we have his cemetery stone, but also because I think he may have been a person who was in between. I think it would have been very hard to be responsible for making people work and also answering to the master, and yet being owned yourself. So think that his position was probably very difficult. But so that's my book. It is available on Amazon. Again, the name is The Slaves Have Names, and you can find it there. If you would like a signed copy, I would love to send you one myself. You can find information about that at andilit.com/the-slaves-have-names. And if you're interested, you can follow me on Twitter at AndyLit, or find me on Facebook under AndyLit Writer. Thanks so much for checking out the video. I hope you'll share it with some people and spread the word. Thanks so much.